In this first question, we're asked to evaluate what is the value proposition of the AWS cloud. What's the purpose? What benefit does it provide to businesses and organizations? It's important to note we're being asked to identify the answer that best describes the value proposition of the cloud. There might be multiple answers that describe the value proposition of AWS, but we're looking for the one that describes that proposition the best. So let's look at each one in turn. The first one, fixed hardware and software costs. On one hand, having fixed costs sounds like a benefit, but AWS likes to emphasize that in many cases, a business that has a fixed set of costs for their architecture might encounter an environment in which the actual demand for that architecture rises and falls, in which case, any overhead is wasted resources. In that regard, what would be preferable would be variable hardware and software costs, which rise and fall to match the amount of demand being used on that system, so that the amount of wasted overspend on hardware and software is lowered. So while a tempting idea, I think we're going to mark that first one as wrong. The second answer is reduced flexibility and scalability. And I think it's easy to see right away that that's not what we're looking for. Reducing flexibility, I'd rather have more flexibility. Reducing scalability, I want my system to scale, to be able to grow when demand rises and be able to shrink down to a smaller, more economical size when it's not needed. So I think we'll identify both of those as wrong answers. The third answer is a pay-as-you-go pricing model. This contrasts against the spending and pricing that occurs in on-premises IT, where I buy a server and I have it, until the day that I throw it away, and I pay for it, once, and I own it the whole time. And even if I only use it a little bit here and a little bit there, I find that I still have paid for it for its entire lifetime. The alternative that cloud computing gives us is an opportunity to pay for something just the time that I'm using it. And as soon as I turn it off, I stop paying for it. And then if I turn it back on again later, I pay for it during the time that I'm using it, and then I turn it off again, and then I stop paying for it again. So pay as you go. And you can see how that would be preferable to a system where you pay, and maybe pay a lot, to buy a server that you maybe don't need all the time. So C is definitely a strong contender here. Let's take a quick look at D. Increased time for deployment. Well, I don't want anything to go slower in business, right? Doing things faster is generally going to be preferable. So increasing the time that it takes to deploy an application or an architecture is bad news. So increased time for deployment is no. Reduced flexibility and scalability is no. Fixed hardware and software costs is no. What I'm looking for here is the pay-as-you-go pricing model.